it's Coach Tori, and this is Raising Runners. We talk running, fitness, mental health, and so many more topics. As the founder of a youth running program, I approach all of our conversations with our youth athletes in mind and kind of have a focus around those things. But as you will see, we are finding that all of these topics relate to runners and people who like to move and do fitness or anything like that. Relates to everybody. Check it out. Hey, it's Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And this is Raising Runners. And everybody can take a deep breath and relax because we have a guest today. So you don't have to hear me and my dad debating all these running topics like we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. So there is a guest. Our guest today is strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, recreational runner, former boss of mine.
Wow.
Dare I say friend, maybe? I think you're a pizza enthusiast. I'm sure I'm missing some things, but we have Joe Delviscio today from EmpowerU Specialty Fitness. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Coach Tori. Thanks for having me today. And Jeff, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Oh, well,
I love that you threw in the recreational runner thing. That's a real shout out to a guy who's a real weekend warrior like myself. So yeah, totally. And the pizza thing, I'm still making pizzas occasionally on Friday nights.
I was thinking of the things I knew about you, and I was like, is the only thing I know about him that they make pizzas on the weekends or Fridays or whatever it is. And that was like the only thing I knew besides like obviously work.
Yes, totally. And really more like a colleague, right? Totally. Yeah. You were a huge help. Absolutely. And so glad that we're still in touch. Definitely.
I know. Well, that's why I was like, let me just throw friend in there just a little bit.
I'll take it. I'll totally.
But because I never do a great intro, can you just tell everybody a little bit about who you are? It can kind of be whatever you want.
Absolutely.
If it's just like you personally or work or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm Coach Joe. I am the founder of EmpowerU Specialty Fitness. We are a fitness company here in the state of Pennsylvania that works with individuals with disabilities, developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities as well as autism. We take our clients to local gyms, rec centers, parks, trails, and provide individualized fitness programming for people. So yeah, I'm also a father. I'm a dad. I have two kids. My daughter Sloan is 6, and my son Lawson is 2. He'll be 3 soon. But yeah, my daughter has Down syndrome, and I'm sure that we'll kind of get into things as we move forward here, but definitely a major reason why we started EmpowerU.
Yeah. Okay. That was a great intro. And we'll definitely get into EmpowerU stuff. But I don't know if actually people are super interested in, like, I'm always like prying into everybody's like how you got into fitness. So hopefully everybody actually cares about that. Sorry if you guys don't. But since I believe you've been doing like personal training and all that stuff for a long time, can you talk a little bit about how you got into all of that? And then I'm sure you can throw in when you started running, because you still run, and we can get into that stuff too.
Cool. So I'd say it actually started with running. In high school, I would go to the gym after school and just run on the treadmill. And then I started taking that more and more outside, and it was really just, like you said, recreational. Like I just really enjoyed to do it. Through the years, I'm glad I did, because now when people are like, oh, I like to run, I can actually sometimes get out there with people and keep up a little bit. I'm not fast or anything, but I can run if we have to. So I do. I really love it. And how I got into this, actually, I mean, a lot of different reasons. I guess there's a long and a short to everything, but I was in college at the time, and I had gone to school for business. You know, a lot of people that actually kind of end up in the field that I'm in were athletes or, you know, really fascinated with sports, sports medicine, whatever it may be. And I was not an athlete. I wasn't a person that like worked out all the time, even though I did like to run. But I did like to move. You know, I was always active. We were always, in my town, we lived pretty close to the beach. So we'd be surfing, or in the winters go snowboarding, or playing basketball, or, you know, anything to kind of get out there and stay active. And I always did like the way that it made me feel. So fast forward, I'm in college. I go to school for business, and I'm thinking about working at a desk my whole life. I'm like, I don't think I can do it. and it was my first semester. So I went and talked to our guidance counselor, who I think she worked with kinesiology. She said, "You have any classes you like right now?" This is going to sound crazy, but health. It was like Kin 101 or something, 100. And she was like, "Well, do you think you'd be interested in it? Go ahead, And I started, and I actually really enjoyed studying the material. It was a lot easier for me to study. I think that I guess maybe more suited for like math and science. And I loved it. And then we got into the labs and all the fun things that we did in the labs. And I thought that, this was a space that I really wanted to be able to grow and work and learn a lot, because, I feel like you listen to the professors that do that, or if you've ever been to PT, it's like this person talks and you're like, oh my gosh, they know everything about movement and everything that I'm doing all the time. It's amazing. So it was, you're impressed, and it worked for me. So I ended up kind of following that path. After college, I did move down to PA. I went to PTA school, and got into the world of geriatrics and working with IDD on the side, and intellectual and developmental disabilities. And from there, I really enjoyed the work. It was all geriatrics. I worked in subacutes, and I worked home care. And that's where I got my, piece of a few different populations. In 2017, my daughter was born with Down syndrome, and that kind of takes us a little bit more into, I think it was really just like you find like a little bit of a drive to kind of maybe learn a little bit more, right? I really wanted to be within the community. And I can remember, when we found out that she was going to be born with Down syndrome, I was like, oh, what? I need to read something. Like, I have to learn something. Because you're expecting your first kid, that's stressful enough, right? Then you find out that, they will have a disability when they're born. And it was just something I wanted to educate myself on. I loved working with the population before that. And it was something that I just really enjoyed. I don't think there's one person that's worked with us, Tori, that could honestly say they didn't like working with the clients, right? I mean, I feel like everybody feels the same way. So it was just a really amazing thing. And I thought, how can I bring some of the things that I know in this world of physical therapy that I had worked in, and getting into various like fitness kind of positions through that? How can I bring this to this population? And I thought, well, I could really kind of just start training, right? Coaching people. And so we actually started with a virtual class in 2019, and that was EmpowerU, or just 501c3. And I think maybe like 12 people signed up for the class. It was a big hit. It was really fun. And they asked us to do it again and again. And then I ended up meeting with the person who ran the agency, said, I think there's a way that you could do this and reach more people. It's like, that would be awesome. So that kind of brought us to where we are today. We ended up going through state insurance, Medicaid procedures, and getting in with various waivers to be able to provide the services to the IDD population and the autism population. And it's all one-on-one now. It's really fun. You've been there. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into this. I guess I kind of took you in a big looping swirl. But yeah, it was never, I always feel like people are always like, were you an athlete? I'm like, no. I just really like to move. I really like the way that it made me feel. And I think like even today, I went for a run before the show. You're getting a little bit antsy. I'm like, well, let me like get breathing and sweating and moving and feeling a little bit better. And it's just always done the same thing for me. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, it seems like you've combined sort of, PT and fitness into something like a different industry. Yeah, because obviously I think of those two things separate for the most part, but I hadn't thought of it until you just talked about it, like the combined piece of it.
Yeah, so totally. And this is a big piece too. If I could actually go down this avenue here, and if I start talking in circles, just tell me.
We
This
do
is
it
my
too.
first podcast. Yeah. So we in PT, I feel like you always hear the same things. It's like, we're getting to people after the injuries, right? It's all about recovery for a lot of rehabilitation and recovery. And a lot of the PTs that I had worked with had said, like, if we had been able to get to these people 5 years sooner, 10 years sooner, change the way that they thought about activity and movement and all the things that they were doing, you really kind of push off a lot of the injuries and ailments that they have. And now PT and what I do is in strength and conditioning, two totally different practice acts, right? But it did give you, for me, it gave me a leg up knowing that I could really deal with clinical sensitivities. I could feel confident in what I know, what I knew I shouldn't do and that a PT should be seen for. Right. So that kind of helped us like navigate exactly who we should be taking and maybe who we should be sending to PT. And that we can actually get to people sooner. The model that we actually work under is really well built for longevity in a way, right? As long as you're working with a person to get them towards independence, which is always our goal for people, you can really work with them for a long time. And, not a lot of insurances work like that, where, you go to PT and it's like, well, you got 4 to 6 weeks, you better get better. Sometimes it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get that person to feel their body and be able to connect it to their brain because they've never done anything like this, right? So we're really able to work with people long term, and you see the effects. I had just done a presentation and presented some data from our first year. I took just 10 random samples, and it was amazing to see how much everybody had improved. And they're little things when you're working with a person in the gym, right? But when you look back at these tests and you see what they indicate, right? They can indicate fall risk, they can indicate future injury. It's really amazing that you're actually pulling that person away from that, right? Or helping them stay away from it. So yeah, it is kind of a, in a strange way, a combination, but we definitely stick to, strength and conditioning and fitness, and let the PTs do the PT work.
Yep. Yeah, and I know you mentioned mental disabilities as well. Now, have you gotten into any way the sort of like depression, anxiety? That I'm sure it doesn't fall necessarily directly in mental disabilities, although there's a mental aspect to it, certainly.
Absolutely, right? Mental illness. I couldn't honestly tell you if that would be available to us through what we do. Not that I would be opposed to it. I think that, when I was in college, one of our small case studies for one of our classes was actually the effects of exercise on depression and anxiety. We're all going to school, we're hopped up on coffee, and we're trying to learn something new all the time, right? Take these tests, whatever else you got going on in your life at the time. And a lot of people are stressed and anxious. And I think that like people that, like, I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for anybody here, but I feel like people that find something in fitness that makes them keep coming back to it, they know what it does to their levels of depression and anxiety and how their mind and their body operate on the day to day, right? And you almost feel like more in tune with that side of yourself a little bit. So yeah, and I like the more buried I get in work, sometimes like I can feel it coming on after a week, and with the kids and work, it can be tough making excuses, but it can be a little bit tough. So got to find the time, because after a week, I'm like scratching my head, like, oh my God, like I'm like a caged animal. So I got to get out and be doing stuff, definitely. And I think it is a major benefit for people with I don't want to say any mental illness, because I'm not as well educated on that, but I think that definitely depression and anxiety, I'm sure across the board.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of studies on it now that show the
Yeah.
benefit of physical fitness, whether it be lifting or any kind of physical activity. Does seem like it helps with depression as much as a clinical therapist can, and certainly as much as drugs can as well in some cases. So it's just hard from a motivational standpoint, I think, to get people who are suffering with depression to then go out and train for a 5K, right? I mean, it's small steps that you're trying to get people to take. I just didn't know if you had to deal with trying to get that motivational aspect of it into your practice.
That's actually an awesome point. My goodness. I mean, I wonder if a similar model would work for if a person's suffering. Like, we don't go in there and we're like, you 10 jumping jacks, get on the floor and give me 50. You know what I mean? We start slow. We meet people where we are. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten off an intake call and the person's like, John, I don't even like the word exercise. I like to say, no, I get it. I got you. Yeah. And it starts with walking and it transitions into something else. And then, we have so many stories like that. It's really amazing. But it's really interesting that you brought that up, because like what we do is meet people where they are. We connect with them first, right? I feel like that's the big message that we're always sending is like connect, get to know that person. right? Get, trust them, let them trust you. Let's build a working relationship here that's going to then thrive either through some type of activity and exercise or through the gym, like whatever avenue that person's interest kind of directs you. Right. And we do, like when I do our needs assessment, I'm really asking for like a lot of interests and motivators and all of these things that might be utilizable to kind of help that person see that exercise is relative to that. Right. And that they can actually go down that path and expand upon it and really push their limits. Yeah.
That was going to be, we kind of already answered it, but one of my questions was like talking about not only just motivating, but like making the fitness space more inclusive, because, and we've talked about that so many times, is like just going into the gym can be so intimidating, knowing what you're supposed to do, knowing what you can do. Like, especially with, you have so many coaches, like what is something that you tell your coaches or help them to kind of help the clients make the gym, feel more comfortable as a place to be in? Because I think that applies to not only just what you do, but, anybody who coaches or works with anybody, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like you're saying, like it might be more difficult for our person to get into the gym space. Right. And why, whether it's due to mental or physical, um, it might be more of an effort, right? It just might be more daunting. The fact of exercising might be more challenging for a person. So it really is meeting that person where they are, connecting with them and building that friendship so that when, if you do get that person into the gym setting, they trust you and they're looking at you like, I'm good because I'm with them, right? And then that actually builds confidence in a lot of our people, and they feel good when they getting there without even having to think that, right? Now they've seen the gym, they're less sensitive to it, right? There's a desensitization that happens a little bit, and they're building the necessary confidence, and they're kicking butt in there, and they're like, this is my place, And I think it really does breed a lot of inclusion, because the guy at the squat rack doesn't care, that a person that may have IDD or autism is working out 4 racks down. It's not, like people go there for a reason, right? And so it's not a place where like everybody's judging themselves in there. They're not. I feel like everybody always thinks, oh, I'm going to get judged. I'm like, you don't even realize, the person running on that treadmill is thinking about them right now, right? So I do. I think that it's a great place to actually be able to provide this service and all those extra things that come along with it. The improvements in socialization and behaviors and all the other stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah. And you have so many creative, I think like all the coaches that I've met at least are super creative on like locations and things. Can you talk a little bit about, obviously it's amazing when you get people into the gym setting, but some of the other kind of settings that you work in and like the different kinds of activities you do to help like create a fitness routine for people who just like can't make it into the gym or just like it just doesn't fit for them yet?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is always like, especially with any type of medical condition, always seek professional help first, right? Call an expert. The other things that I think of is like, if you're going to be working out or getting someone to work out with you, is like, first connect with that person, right? Always make sure that, you're meeting them on a human level, figuring out what they want, what drives them, what motivates them, and how we can, use that to get them to their goals. The next thing is listening to your body, like whether, I'm sending somebody out to do exercise on their own, or I have a coach going to the gym. Like if that person says that, we're not like a no pain, no gain kind of place, right? Because we do deal with sensitivities when it comes to like the clinical aspect of things. So it's like if a person's telling you that something hurts, it's not for them right now, right? So listening to your body and making sure that you are stopping when you need to stop, right? Not pushing through the pain. After that, it's like modify, get creative, right? I think that any exercise can be modified in the sense where you could reduce intensity, you could reduce load, you could reduce duration, right? And you could figure out a way to push that exercise forward, right? Like if we're in a PT setting, a lot of times they'll use, for a person that's, very weak at the time, active assist range of motion or gravity minimized range of motion, right? And so they're taking gravity like to the point where they're dropping that exercise down to such a base level, they're actually taking gravity away from your lift. And I think that that's a really important thing that kind of helps us shape where we can start. Cause like, I look at anybody, I'm like, we could start anywhere. We could, you know what I mean? Like we could definitely work with anyone. So yeah, I really think that that would be it too, making sure you're modifying, right? And then lastly, I feel like, you know, if you're going to be doing an adaptive program and you need an adaptive space, having those people feel included and welcome, right? Like I said, a lot of times I get in the gym and it's right, you know, one-to-one with a person, and I look around and everybody's looking at the thing in front of them because they really want to move the weight or they really want to get the extra mile. And it's a place where like you don't have to feel as judged because everybody's really there to get better. So like having those people feel included in those spaces. And sometimes that means some adaptive equipment, some adaptations to the facility itself, parking lot spaces or elevators, whatever it might be, grab bars. You know, I don't think that that's applicable for every type of establishment, but I think that adds to a person feeling welcome. A lot of times I do hear it from our clients where it's like, oh, wow, somebody just told me the other day, they switched that elevator over from a key to a push button, which makes it way better for me. Because now like it's tiring getting to the elevator, or, you know, I have a difficulty due to my gait. Then I got to turn around. I got to go back and get somebody with a key, and I got to go back here. Right. So I think like little things like that, it just makes a person more apt to return, and it makes them feel more included. And I don't know if you've seen the adaptive playgrounds. Amazing. The equipment that they have in these places now, it's incredible. I was just at one not too far from me. I'm allowed to say it, or does that matter?
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
Backton Hill.
Oh my gosh, I just saw pictures of it online.
It's beautiful. And it's like the whole floor is like, I mean, the whole layout of the playground is so soft. And they actually have like really challenging pieces of equipment there that are really kind of like injury safe in so many ways, which I think is awesome, because it's like, how can we safely get people to really push themselves and challenge themselves? I think it's great for so many different people, including myself. That's why I was there.
Right.
So Joe, you work a lot with elderly, it looks like, as well on your website. I guess any advice for, like, you know, I have some elderly in-laws, you know, that probably aren't, you know, besides a little bit of walking, how do they go about? How do you go from just being someone who can walk a few miles to protecting themselves from those injuries in the future? Like, what is the sort of protocol to kind of get from here to somewhere stronger?
Yeah. And I think, you know, following a lot of those things that I actually just kind of mentioned, I feel like definitely seek a professional's help. PT, physician, whatever it might be, especially if you're worried about falling, right? The thing about falling is that it's one of those things that if you fall and get injured, it can be really difficult to recover from it, right? And rehab from it. And you see it kind of lead the way to just other things that can potentially happen.
Yeah, it's a spiral from that first injury into the second injury into the pneumonia into the
Yeah. So like anybody that's maybe a loved one is saying like, you're off balance, right? Like listen to those people. And not that, I mean, if they're always hypercritical of you, like still listen. Because it's important to make sure that you can maintain balance and stability as you age. Now, I definitely, especially for those that are feeling like they don't have balance, but if people are like, I just kind of want to exercise more, I feel pretty good, I like to go on hikes occasionally, or maybe a walk here and there, and I would get to the gym, see if you have a Silver Sneakers around you. I think that they actually run really good programming. You could,
I've not heard of them. Silver Sneakers?
yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of times they have trainers that are kind of mapped out through, like they have contracts with Silver Sneakers.
Okay.
I would recommend having guidance and help as we age. So I think that would be the best thing to do. Other than that, it's like modify your exercises, focus on body weight. A lot of people are worried about like osteoporosis as we age. And I think that like just loading through your body against gravity is a good way to close chain kinetic exercise, right? Like loading through your body against gravity or against a load or resistance is a really good way to strengthen everything, muscles, bone, your neurological system, right? Like to find all the stuff out about carries and retroambulation and all this stuff right now. So I'd recommend a trainer or a coach, but if you have to do it by yourself, simple, basic, modify, keep it safe. Body
Okay.
weight.
That's great. Tori, it looks like there's no problem, no problems with the baby James.
Everybody's good.
Yeah, it's the new dishwasher. We finally got the dishwasher and it's so loud, and that must have been what it was.
It's the jet washer.
Yeah, what the heck? So yeah, no, now I have the monitor, so I'm like being a responsible parent now.
Oh man, what's a baby monitor?
All right. You don't do baby monitor?
No, we did. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot it was recorded. Yeah, we had baby monitors. I feel like after we moved up here, though, like we kind of like listened in.
Yeah, no, this is for, well, it's literally pointed at the closed door. So I'm like, if he opens the door, I'll know he's missing now. So, but if like if I go work out in the shed, I need to be like, I can't hear you.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, clearly I'm not that responsible because I like left it upstairs and it wasn't on.
I feel like you probably usually have it with you.
Yeah, when it's on.
Huh? Hey, yes. Sorry, I was going to bring it back to running.
Oh, yeah, she's fine.
Awesome.
I'll stop chit-chatting. Sheesh.
No, I was just kidding. Joe, I think you ran the distance run this like a couple months ago.
I did, yeah.
So I just from your own advice, like so people who are out just the casual weekend runners, like what was your strategy as far as training, preparing?
If I could give anybody advice, it would be don't do what I did. Definitely train. Definitely prepare for it. I mean, like I said, I do like to run, and there are times where I'm running longer distance, and not that I'm a fast person, but I feel like I could just keep going. So I wasn't super petrified. And in June, I ran a 15K, which would have been my first 15K there too. And I felt like after I did that, I was like, I could have kept going. But for that one, I trained, and I had much better time. For the distance run, I didn't train. And I got to like the week before, and I was like, I know I shouldn't run this week, but I'm going to run. And I ran.
You're in the fitness space. You should.
Oh, I know. But I was like, I just felt like at least my body will fall apart, not my heart. So I was thinking like, maybe it's a better strategy. And I did feel like, I think it was like mile 11 or 12. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have to walk. My whole thing was like, just don't walk.
Once you start walking, it's over. It's a long way to go at that point.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, there are people, like my sister had showed up. I didn't even invite her, So I'm like, oh, I got to get there now. I told her I was doing this thing, and I made it. My time was like, I mean, I was under 9.
It was good.
But it wasn't like, I was just like,
you're a born marathoner.
Well, I may try one. I feel like I do like to run for longer distance, but
if you tell me you can run and you don't feel like you get tired, it's like that you're either an ultra runner or a marathon runner.
No, I don't think that's the case either. I definitely bit off more than I could chew with that one.
So I'm guessing you didn't settle on fall marathon. You're going to do spring marathon?
Yes.
Right. Didn't we talk about this?
Yeah, I was going to do another half in November, but we've been so busy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that doesn't seem like it matters to you. Like if you don't train, what does it matter whether you're busy or not?
You're going to have me show up and just like in the back, like you'll be carrying me on your back running through the finish line.
Well, we're running a spring marathon because Jeff's qualifying for Boston this
My cousin asked me if I wanted to do that one recently, so I think I'm gonna jump in.
There you go. You're trying to do Boston too?
No.
Oh, is there a spring marathon in Philadelphia?
Isn't there one in April or something? Or
there's a lot of them out there.
There is. Yeah. I know like Jim Thorpe is in April.
Oh, wait, is it Philly? Are you Jim Thorpe you're talking about?
No, we're not doing, we haven't settled on which one we're doing. But I think both are Boston qual. Well, there's one in Jim Thorpe, and this is boring to anybody who's not local. So sorry. And then we talked about the Rhode Island Marathon because that's a Boston qualifier, and that's flattish, I believe. And that's in the spring too. I couldn't find
from Rhode Island.
So, okay.
So am I.
That's what I was telling my dad. I was like,
Warwick, Rhode Island, Pilgrim High School.
I'm from
Yeah.
Westerly.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
think
I
Tori
was
did tell me that actually.
yeah,
You did?
many years ago. I'm way before your time. I graduated in '81. So
Okay. When did you move down here?
probably 85 or 6. I went to college down here in Pennsylvania. And, sorry, I went to college. I'm in Florida at the moment, but I went to college in Pennsylvania area.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah. And then I stayed there. I live in New Jersey now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
humble brag, he's in Florida.
I know. And
Well, I was a little
he didn't
confused
even
on my
jump on for
location
this
for a
one.
second there. That's why I threw that out there. Like, I happen to be in
I feel like I had a
Florida.
couple more questions for you, and then I obviously want you to, plug EmpowerU so everybody can know how to support and find you if they're local, all that stuff. But before that, we talked a little bit kind of about how busy you are and running and even just like with work and all that stuff. And I think even like you said about how you went for a run earlier, with, jitters and all that stuff. But I know that was like the worst question ever, but can you talk a little bit about how you find balance to do, home life, work? Because I mean, running a small business, or not even a small business anymore, running a business is so much time. I feel like you are so busy. And then like also trying to find time to work out or do anything. You talked about how much you like to move. So can you talk a little bit about how you try to navigate that at least?
It's tough. And I feel like, yeah. It is small business. Totally. Yeah. But I feel like balance is like always found from like two totally unweighted things sometimes. And sometimes that's kind of just how it has to be, right? I feel like you have to kind of create the time to do it just when you have other things going. It could be like anything in your life, right? And I feel like I was just talking about this the other day, so it's going to sound so bad, but I feel like nothing takes a lot of time out of your day. And like you actually have to do nothing. It's like a task. It's like a thing. It's like I always try to view it like that. Like, am I going to do nothing or am I going to get on the computer and do my work? It doesn't always work. I'm not like this like guru of like balancing my days out. It's a constant effort, but it's like, okay, am I going to get up early tomorrow and work out? Well, I definitely am feeling like I need to. And if I want to continue my routine, so I, don't have that feeling next week, then I have to get set in it. And like, I have to commit and I have to tell myself, okay, 5 a.m. it is, and I got to get up and do it, or 8 or 9 it is when the kids go to bed. Because I view it as like a time that I really enjoy. So I kind of consider it leisure time. So when I'm balancing out my day, it's like, that's the time for me to do something that I like. So I'm going to do it when my kids aren't relying on me for something, or, work isn't relying on me for something. And that's really how I balance it. It, like I said, it's a constant work in progress, but I do try to like really map out my days on the computer, like as far as my schedule, where it's like, get up, give this, the amount to give yourself 21 minutes to make your coffee and drink it and like shake the cobwebs off, and then get out there and do your run. Right. And then it's like the kids will be up around this time. Make sure that you're, getting things ready and rolling off to the school bus at this time. And I try to like, even if I keep it general, I make sure that those times are blocked out and I know what I'm like cueing myself that I need to do. And that does help me a lot. Like here, I do a lot with the kids from 3:30 until about 7. And that's my time with them. And I've decided that if I have to stay up late, or if I have to get on the computer after they get to bed from the hours of 8 to 10, 8 to 12, whatever it might be, then that's a time that I map myself out for work again, right? Being with my wife, like these times, I feel like you have to create the time. You have to kind of schedule it and make it happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you kind of mentioned like if I have to stay up late or get up early, it's like you always have to sacrifice something, and it feels like sleep happens to be the one
And
that
we
makes the
need
most
it.
sense, right? But you need it. Yeah.
I know. I've never been like, I sleep really hard for like, I do feel like I've never been a late sleeper. Like when people in high school wake up at like noon, I'd be like, how do you do that? I feel like I'm missing something. Like I'm up, I'm ready to go. And I do, like, now that I'm older, I used to be like, man, I wish I could sleep in, feel more. energized throughout the day. But now that I'm older, I actually like that because I feel like I just have so much more time in my day. And I do think that when I shift to earlier hours to wake up, it's not as painful, you know. But yeah, it is. It's like a huge like ebb and flow of balance. Like one side of the scale is totally getting, so just trying to get them closer together usually helps me.
Yeah, I'm waiting for some. I feel like I ask this question to everybody is like, you know, especially busy people. I'm like, how do you fit it all in? And I'm waiting for someone to give me an answer that I'm like, I want to hear. Like, oh, you do this and you have all this time. Because I'm like, I want to be able to
Yeah.
sleep. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to do anything else. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, no one's told me how to do that yet.
I have the answer. It's retire.
There you go.
Okay.
Jeff, you got it, my man.
Yeah, I mastered it. You retire and suddenly you have all kinds of time to do all these things that you wanted to do.
It is true. And I feel like if you're an active person too, like I feel like retirement looks really fun.
Yeah,
Are you having fun in retirement?
I am. I'm having a
feel like you
blast.
are.
It's been like 18 months and I'm loving it.
Retired, going to, you know, shoot for the qualifier for the Boston Marathon. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I put my own, you know, it's funny. I was doing a bunch of things when I first retired. I was doing, you know, animal videos and stuff. It's like, it's just trying to find like my purpose. And then I just launched into running. I mean, I always ran in the meantime. I ran for many years, but I just put all my energy into like running, lifting, mobility. Like that's all I do now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, no, well, he went real hard. I think he like all eggs. I mean, he's in Florida by himself, so he can run without anybody.
I'm down here for my own little personal boot camp for 3 weeks.
Talk about balance.
Right.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself through a personal boot camp. My gosh. You are getting ready. This is awesome. You're going to crush it.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. I just actually tried a marathon like in August, and I ran a great 22 miles. But unfortunately, as you know, they're 26 miles. So running a great 22 doesn't really help you.
Oh my gosh.
And in the last
Starting to
four,
get crossed, like I like thinking about.
We talked about walking. It's like once I got broken at 22, and like I couldn't even walk. Like the next mile was like a 17-minute mile to get that, you know, the legs from stopping to cramp up, and it was
Yeah,
it was not a great experience. So anyway, next time.
Next time.
Maybe I've run 4 marathons, and 3 of them that pretty much has been the result. I've ran a great either first half, 17 great miles. This time 22 great miles. I ran 1 marathon which I wasn't really trying. I'm like, you know, I'll just go out and run it for a training run. And so that's the only one I finished well. So we'll see. I've been training a lot. We'll see what happens in 6 months.
I think you're just missing an EmpowerU shirt while you run.
That's what I need. That's exactly what I need, man.
Sponsored athlete now.
When you had talked about you wish that there was a person that would be able to just be like, this is how you find balance.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I feel like that's so important because I so often feel like, especially with our clients or like people in general, like that there's like some kind of finish line to something, right? Like we talk about the races and things, there's always like a finish line. And then after you're like, oh. But I feel like in life, like it is just this, like you're hitting checkpoints a lot of times, and that it's not really about a secret sauce, but more of just like good management of it. You know, and like being able to adapt and move and continuing to stay like committed to a certain thing, right? Like a lot of our clients are like 6 months in the gym, I lost 5 pounds. That's it. Don't need to go anymore. Right. Like that can happen sometimes.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, you know, like this is actually a lifelong thing a skill that you have with you now. Right. Most of our people want to stay in the gym and keep working. But I just feel like so many people are looking for that. Like, well, what's the, you know, what's the secret sauce? Like, what's the fix, or where's the finish line to this? And I just feel like, I don't know. I think it's more of like a checkpoint type of thing, and then get back to it, manage it again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, and I know you have lots of people that, you know, started working with you and they've kind of continued on that schedule. Some people I know have added more time to be able to work out more, but then maybe I'm wrong, but I believe we even talked about that there are some people that, you know, started working out with you and then maybe they still meet up with you once or twice a week, but then they also are working out on their own too. So like you're saying, like that transferring of the skills of like, I'm teaching you how to do something. Now it's something you feel comfortable and able to do on your own. So like it becomes a habit even when you guys aren't around to kind of be a part of it too, which is so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you got to, like, we totally let people drive the ship, right? Like, I'm like, you're the captain. I think a lot of times too with our clients, especially maybe some of our younger ones just getting into adulthood and that kind of thing, they feel like mom and dad still control a lot of things, right? And a lot of times with us, sometimes it is maybe, mom or dad or a sports coordinator, somebody has mentioned us and said, this might be a good idea. It's really good to keep up with your health. And they might not be that interested at first. And I do feel like, we get in there and it's like, this is your journey, right? And like, you're going to take this with you and it's going to be yours. So we're going to make it something that you like. And we're going to find a way to kind of get there with the activity, no matter what it is. And I think that that's like really important piece, because I think a person having that control, and especially like early adults, or, as we get past our 20s, I know how fun everybody's 20s were. But I think it's really important that they know that and they can feel that, make decisions for themselves. And whether it's a good decision with the exercise or bad, like maybe I'll skip today, right? They can kind of see the differences in the results to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, because we are running out of time.
I can do the plug.
Yeah. So let people know locally how they can find you if they're looking for support or looking to start working with you or anything like that. Can you let them know how to find you? And then for the non-local people, can you let them know kind of just any ways that they're able to support EmpowerU?
Absolutely. So you can find us on EmpowerUSF.com. You'll see our website, you'll see all about us, how we started, everything that we're doing. And you can actually find us on Instagram now. We're kind of starting a Instagram campaign. We're really kind of mapping that out right now, but it's EmpowerU SF. And you can kind of follow our journey there as well. You could talk to, if you are an individual locally looking to get on with services, make sure you talk to your team, your sports coordinators and your ISP team, see if it's something that, obviously, if you want it, it's for you, definitely. But, maybe something you can explore as a team too. And a lot of times people know how to reach out to us and get to us. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thanks for
It was
having
great
me.
to
This
catch
was
up with
really
you.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I will have the links in the show notes, so you're able to find all the links there. But thank you again. This was great.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
That was awesome.
If I was talking too much. Jack.
Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all the things that you can do for a podcast that you enjoy listening to. Make sure you check out social media, our website, any of those things. If you have questions, comments, interview requests, feel free to email me at maracayrunclub@gmail.com.